So it is going to be a small session, but we've got some participation on IRC as well. So let's start by an intro. What's the purpose of this session? Okay. So the title of the session is Sustainable Translations, and the motivation behind this is that next cycle. I mean, until now I've been working as the Ubuntu Translation Coordinator from the community team, and that won't change, like essentially. But what will happen is that next cycle I'll be focusing on other areas of the community. One being the app developer community. So with that, I will have a bit less time to dedicate to translations as in previous cycles. And I want to make sure that the translations, the Ubuntu translations community doesn't suffer from that. We've got an awesome translation community, and we've built upon the work from the previous cycles. And I think this is something that we can do, but we need help from translations leaders. Just to give a bit more background here as well, on previous cycles, one of the things that I was making sure that was being made was to make the whole process of translations, of Ubuntu translations, more transparent and more open to the community. For those of you who remember this, some time ago, the translations process was a bit like a black box. It was closed. People didn't really know what happened behind doors, and this is something I've tried to change. So right now, I think we're in a position in which most, if not all, of the things that, or most of the areas of contribution in the coordination and promotion of the Ubuntu translations project are in the Ubuntu translations community are open and can be done by anyone in the community who would like to basically take initiative and basically drive any area of interest they would like to. So that's basically it. I mean, yeah, just stressing that this will not change. My role is just that I won't have that, the same amount of time on this cycle at least. So that's basically it. I mean, I've got a few ideas on how we can achieve this. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd like to ask you guys what you think about this, and if you've got any ideas on how we could make that. Basically, the coordination or the health of the whole Ubuntu translations project is not based on one person, but rather it's distributed, and it's really. I mean, right now it's a community project already, but yeah, obviously I'm here and I'm employed to make sure that there's momentum behind the translations project. What we don't want is like a situation in which there's stagnation in the project and there's no new initiatives. People cannot translate Ubuntu well and things like that. So yeah, I mean, do you have any questions to start with, or do you have any ideas on how we could achieve this, Jim?
With the translation community now, are there like a core group of people who understand the processes and issues really well, or are there people who don't know it so well?
That's a really good point. So right now what we've got is what. So I mean, translations are a bit different. Well, perhaps not that much. I mean, we've got translation teams which have got members which do not really participate in the global translation community or in the global Ubuntu community. They participate to Ubuntu, like translating in their own language and working in their forums and stuff like that. Then there's a set of what I would call translation leaders, which are generally the team coordinators of each team, each language team, and they tend to be much more active in the global translation community. These are the people who are subscribed generally to the Ubuntu translators mailing list, and these are the ones that drive the discussions and participate in them. Amongst these translation leaders, there's another few which are not only interested in participating in discussions, but also in implementing or being more active in driving the Ubuntu translations community forward. And some of these people are also knowledgeable more technically knowledgeable about translations, how they work at the technical level. And these people are in a team, which is an official team in Launchpad called the Ubuntu Translations Coordinators. I help driving this team, but basically anyone in that team is supposed to have, first of all, the initiative to want to improve Ubuntu translations or to want to drive the Ubuntu translations project, and some technical knowledge as well. Because the tasks that these people can do imply changing settings in Launchpad translations, and moving templates around and things like that. So yeah, as I say, one of the requirements, you have to know what you're doing, because if you're tweaking things in Launchpad, you're tweaking things for thousands and thousands of users. So, but yeah, so in short, to answer your question, we do have an official team that we could call the translation experts or translation coordinators, which could drive this process. But apart from that, I mean, there's you don't have to be a member of that team to contribute in that sense. I mean, there's tasks that I mean, basically, if you are a member of that team, you have several permissions in Launchpad, and you can do things that other people without the technical knowledge cannot do. But on the other hand, like coordinating the release process and Ubuntu translations, and so you don't need permissions for that. If you want to send an announcement to the mailing list, you don't need permissions for that. Or if you want to promote the translations community, if you're an Ubuntu member, you can block on the plan, for example. And so
I guess with the doc stuff, we've been kind of spoiled because we can just copy you on a translation-related topic in an email to make sure that it gets out to the translation community. Like, I'm not on the translation mailing list. I mean, I think I was for a period of time, but just with like volume and issues and things like that. Plus the docs team wasn't very active and stuff. But would that is that level of is you as a conduit to that community? Will that still be there, or
that will?
Should be
I mean, that will not change. I mean, that will still be there. I mean,
so that level of interaction that's been going on now, that's okay?
Like that won't change. It's just that perhaps I might not be that responsive at times, because I might be working on another part of the project. But I mean, I'm still the main contact person for translations, and I mean, you can just ping me, email me.
And you might need to just channel me to like some other person in the group or something.
Right. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. Also, I mean, if I'm not busy with another project, I can just do it as usual. So it might not be, I mean, depending on what I'm doing at the moment, it might not be any different to you, for example, if you need something from me for translations.
Okay.
So, I mean, the idea is basically to distribute the tasks of basically driving the Ubuntu translations community forward. And I mean, the Ubuntu translations coordinator team might be a good start for that. I mean, these are people who are really deeply involved in Ubuntu translations, not only in Ubuntu translations but also in upstreams. I mean, we've got Gabor, for example. He's a member of the Ubuntu translations coordinator team, and he focuses mostly on bug tracing, bug fixing, and so on. He's doing quite a lot of awesome stuff. So let me see. Someone is telling us something. Someone is telling us something on IRC. So Kenneth is telling us, depending on how much time.
How's your time?
All right, he's okay. Right. So one of the challenges, depending on the time I've got on this cycle, he's saying that he would see the need for a well. I mean, there is always the need of someone with domain knowledge on Launchpad to refer to, basically, to be the contact person. I mean, on one, I can tell you that this will not change. I mean, I'll still be on IRC. You can ping me anytime, so that wouldn't make a difference. And the second one is perhaps the most interesting one, like on driving new initiatives, making sure that the translations project is driven forward. And I think that's the most I would like to get from this session, to see how we can just perhaps get a set of people who would like to or would be interested in helping on this. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, any do you guys have any particular ideas on how we could do this?
So you're saying you want to delegate some of your, well, the things that you were doing that now won't be able to do because of time constraints. You want to delegate those to the team leaders, for example?
I think this is possible because the translation coordinators team is consisting of like 10 people or so. So there is a lot of people here. And also we have a lot of smaller tasks that could be delegated to these people if they want. For example, we do authorizing, internationalization, and vaccine localization, the single languages, and we do maintaining the list of templates to translate, because sometimes new ones get added to the main repository, sometimes old ones get kicked back to Universe, so those have to be removed. And what do we do? Also setting the priority of these templates, which is a linear process, and we really have a huge backlog for this, because I think when this priority team was introduced, the priority of the existing templates back then was once set up, and since then almost nothing happened in that field.
So the priority of packages and templates is done manually?
Exactly.
Okay, well, I'm sure that could be automated in some way. No? I mean, we've gone through a few releases now, so you must know which ones are more important than the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things here.
But you
We-
have to write code for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
no one else will do it for you.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, there's no easy way to automate it. I mean, in order to set priority, you need some special permissions. It's just a field it's just a setting in Launchpad. So you need to be able to have the permissions to do that.
So, sorry, who has those permissions now?
All right, right now we've got this team I was talking about, the
Okay.
Ubuntu Translation Coordinators team, and everyone in that team has got the permissions to do that. But it's something that you have to do manually. You have to go to Launchpad, select the template, and change the setting. There's no automated way like access through an API to do this. The last time we did this was a bit of a hack, but it worked quite well. We set up we've got like 1,500 templates. We set up groups of templates and we gave numbers to each group of templates. And once we had the whole list of templates with the whole list of priorities, we gave it to the Launchpad team, and they basically set up an SQL query to write directly to the database. That's not something that's scalable. That's not something that can be done every time, because it takes quite a lot of time to write to the Launchpad database. For security reasons, they have to really sure that they don't write garbage on the database. So what I'm trying to say is that we don't have a nice and automated way to do this.
I mean, I'm just looking at the list here of, the priority packages. It's like bootloader, Debian installer, help.
Yeah.
Those sort of things seem fairly obvious that there should be, priority one.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure it's the same in Maverick. The order is probably very similar. So
Yeah.
there must be a way to sort of carry that over, no?
Yeah. That's the one. That's not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is that, perhaps not that much of a problem. We set the priorities for the first time in Karmic, I think, and after that we've only been doing tweaks, and so we haven't done any major reordering. So that, I think, for me personally, I think that works well. That's not perfect because we don't have like a really accurate up to the last package way of telling that the priority is correct. But still, the biggest ones, at least the two first pages of templates should be pretty well maintained in terms of priority. But the rest, we cannot guarantee that right now. So that would, I agree that would be also one of the areas. You are explaining about the priorities. That would be an area. If someone could pick up that particular task, that would be something that's really useful.
It looks like this on the inside.
Oh yeah.
Sorted by priority, and lots of them have 0 because it was not set.
And I recognize those are all up there on the last page, aren't they?
A lot of those, K desktop, K office, all those.
These were added recently.
Yeah.
There is a few hundred of these. So it's basically not impossible, but you need to
Takes time.
devote a few days for it. Also, we have this so-called project issuing the updates.
The Linux project.
Which is also a few.
Yes. So perhaps we could just go. Sorry.
It's also a little bit of work, and somebody needs to step behind it and push it.
Right. Yeah. What I've done here, I've got a list that I compiled some time ago about tasks that some people that would be interested could pick up. Probably we just go through them and we can talk a bit about them. So just a second. Another idea, for example, to have more distributed leadership or distributed help would be for encourage translation teams to subscribe to bug triaging for the Ubuntu translations project. What we've got is in Launchpad we track bugs related to translations in a special project. So every time someone reports a bug, they can report it against a particular package, but they can also subscribe, add what we call a bug task to the Ubuntu translations project, and then the Ubuntu translations coordinator team is subscribed to this, and it gets visible to us, and we can just poke the people who can fix this.
So if there's any problems with the translation, if there's a bug in the translation, it automatically goes to the translators team?
There's you need the manual step of first of all subscribing the Ubuntu translations project. Then we get notified, so that's automatic. If it's an issue in a particular language, we just then go and subscribe to the particular language team, and they get notified, and then they fix it. So there's some manual overhead, but if it's generally, if it's localization bugs, they're pretty trivial. We just assign them to the team, they fix them, and that's it.
Okay. But that doesn't take all that much time, does it?
No, but if you scale it with a lot of bugs, these are the easy bugs. So these ones, you can just triage them in 2 seconds. But then there are the harder ones. Some bugs in which it's a real bug in an application, and it really needs someone with knowledge on international relations at the technical level to fix them or to try it. But ultimately, if it's something really hard, or if we cannot find out, I mean, we just spoke someone from the desktop team or so that could look into it. Yeah. So, is there anything else from IRC?
Low level of bureaucracy, small isolated tasks.
So yeah, in case someone is not, let's just repeat this in case someone is not following IRC, but the sound. So Kenneth Nielsen is saying on IRC that if we want to delegate tasks, the following things will be important. So low level of bureaucracy. Basically, that means that, yeah. Another way of saying like low barrier for contribution. The second one would be small isolated tasks appointed to particular persons. Yeah, that would be responsible for them. The third one would be document the tasks so that yeah, I'm just trying to read it ahead a bit just to understand it. So document the tasks so they are well known and they are accepted and agreed to have for smaller periods of time. In terms of the period of time, I mean, everyone can agree to have them for as long as they want. I mean, if they can only contribute for a week or if they can only contribute for a particular time of the cycle, that's fine. If they want to take it forward and be the official person for that particular task, I think that's fine too. I mean, yeah, we're all involved in the community. We all know how to manage our spare time and the volunteer time we've got that we can spend in the project. So that's, yeah. I mean, once you agree to a task, you know that, and you are free to dedicate as much time or as much time if you've got as much time as you like.
So what right now takes up most of your time, would you say, that can be delegated?
Yeah, I mean, let me just paste again all of the things that we're doing in the translations project, and so we can get an overview of the tasks. I think right now, what takes most of my time is perhaps, I don't know, I mean, in terms of coordinative tasks, but triaging, and administration of translation templates in Launchpad. I mean, this is a small list. Perhaps there are other things that we can add here. And so perhaps if we just quickly go through them, we could order them by priority. So if they cannot be assigned to, if we cannot find someone to be assigned to each one of them, at least we can have a set of the ones which we consider most important. So right, let me try to make this bigger. So the first one is Ubuntu Translations Import Queue Management in Launchpad, long and fancy name. That means that basically when new packages get uploaded into Launchpad, their translations are imported. And when they are imported, they end up in something we call the imports queue. And it takes some time for them to get processed. Generally, they are processed automatically, but some of them they aren't. So you have to go through the entries in the queue, which for some reason are stuck in the queue, and basically find out why they weren't imported. So sometimes it's, I mean, this is basically investigative work and trying to see what failed or just accepting the translation. I mean, sometimes they are just new translations, and new translations don't get imported automatically, so it's just a matter of importing them or accepting them, sorry, just clicking the button. So that's one. I think I mean, this one doesn't take that much time. It's just a matter of making sure that the translations import queue is clean, so it doesn't get full with lots of packages, and that at least the most important packages have been accepted.
So do you think that could be delegated? I mean, seeing as you're supposed to have NL or ES in front of the PO extension.
Right.
So it's fairly easy to see which translation team it should go to. So for example, all the Dutch ones could go to that team manager, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, the thing is, I mean, this could be doable because you've got access to the import queue up to the PO file, so that could be something that could be done. But we're talking more about coordinating the global queue for. So you wouldn't be looking at each individual team. You'd be looking at the main template. So the translations is not what needs to be approved. The template is what needs to be approved. For example, for let's say empathy, for example, if the empathy translations are imported, would end up in the queue is everything. But if you are managing the queue, you'd only be looking at the template. So you would accept the template, and after doing that, all the translations would be imported. I mean, for that, we need some permissions in Launchpad for this. So in this case, it should be done possibly by someone from the Ubuntu Translations Coordinator team, which have got the permissions for that. I mean, anyone in the community could help in researching why the translations didn't get imported, but ultimately the person accepting the import queue entry would have to have permissions. So I don't know. I mean, this cycle I wasn't that much active in managing the queue, but I made sure that that at least the most important packages were integrated and accepted. I don't know. I mean, I consider this a priority, but perhaps not that high in the list. I don't know. What do you guys think? Gabor, for example. I mean, you've been dealing with the import
This is
queue.
the most important, I think.
Do you think it's the most important one?
If it's not important, we can translate it.
Right. Yeah.
But do anything about
Right.
it.
Yeah, but in terms of like important for it to be delegated, I mean, right now.
There is something I don't really understand. What do you mean by investigating what's wrong with that?
Generally, when
How do you do it?
all right, just as an example, I'm thinking of something that might have happened recently. KDE translations, for example. Generally, when you upload a package, translations are imported for you without problem, unless there's been some changes in the locations in which they are in the source code. So for KDE in this cycle, there were some packages in which the template had been moved to another source package. So in this case, you end up with a new entry in the imports queue, which cannot be automatically approved. So you have to find out why. I mean, for each entry, you have to investigate why it didn't get approved. So you might have to download the source package and build it and see if there was any change or if there's any problem. So that's what I mean by investigating. It's a bit of detective work. I mean, it's a bit technical involved.
Because I see currently for Netty, there are about 160 templates,
Yeah.
templates that need a review, and I don't really have any idea what could I do with all these GCC. Is this even important, or can we throw away?
Yeah, and that's exactly the investigative work I was saying. I'm just trying to show the imports queue. So basically, that's what the imports queue look like. So what we see here is a list of templates, and how these ones were imported. The ones that need review are the ones that are stuck in the queue right now. And yeah, I mean, for the need review, you'd get the same list as in here. And yeah, I mean, right now, there's, as Gabor was saying, there's about 170 packages in there, or templates, sorry. And yeah, I mean, the last time I was looking at the queue, I was making sure that, I mean, I wasn't really bothered about getting this number to 0, but rather to get the most important packages approved. I mean, GCC, for example, yeah, it might be nice to get translated, but not everyone uses the compiler. So yeah, I mean, if I would have had more time, I would have investigated why this didn't get approved, and I would have approved it. But I mean, I was concentrating on things like Unity or other more visible stuff.
So the question as to why it didn't get approved is the approval process, is that supposed to be automatic or not?
Yeah, it is also
Okay.
supposed to be automatic. When it is not, it ends up in the queue as needs review, so that someone looks at it.
So like, what are some possible reasons why it wouldn't get automatically imported?
For example, let's just have a look at an entry quickly. So,
Because they are new, or
sorry?
because they are new, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, either they are new, or for example,
they are documentation templates which we don't translate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's several reasons. I mean, one of the reasons, for example, is here, the path. That's where the POT template is generated in the code. So it might be that a new package has changed this path. It's no longer blah 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 v3, but v4 or whatever. So we then need to go here and change this path manually. Yeah. So that's something that might be quite time consuming. And unfortunately,
It is not documented on the wiki.
sorry.
It's not documented on the wiki.
It is documented to an extent, and that brings up the. I mean, this might address the issue Kenneth was mentioning earlier on about documenting these tasks. I mean, we've got the Ubuntu Translations Coordinators page, in which some of these actions are documented. For example, if we go to Ubuntu Translations Import Queue Management in Launchpad, some of these things are, as I say, documented. So we've got something we can start with. But anyway, yeah, let's try to move on to the other items. So coordination of teams on the Ubuntu translators group. This is basically about approving new language teams that would like to have a team in Ubuntu to translate it in Launchpad. So generally, what this takes is for each team to basically follow a procedure, which ends up in sending a support request in Launchpad. This support request is then seen by people subscribed to the Ubuntu Translations project, which is generally the Ubuntu Translations coordinators team, and we review their request, and if everything's fine, then they get accepted and we can translate Ubuntu in Launchpad, or if there's something they might need to change, there's some feedback, there's some back and forth, and if they, once they've addressed all of the issues, they get accepted into the Ubuntu translators group, which will allow them to translate Ubuntu in Launchpad. So, I mean, that's something, I mean, this review process of seeing if a translations team is worth adding to the Ubuntu translators group can be done by someone with a bit of knowledge about translations. I mean, you don't need lots of technical knowledge for that. I mean, generally, one of the things that we check is that the language people is applying for is really a language, and the way we do this is making sure that at least that particular language has an ISO language code. There's the ISO 639 standard where particular language codes for each language are defined, and one of the requirements for a language to be translatable in Ubuntu is that it needs to have an ISO code. So that's one of the first checks we do. Another check we do is that the language is not really language, but perhaps a dialect. So if we suspect that this is the case, we contact the main language team to see if both teams could actually work together rather than having a separate team for the dialect of the variant of the main language. So that's what that task involves. So yeah, I mean, right now we don't have that many requests, but I think that's something important because that's. I mean, if people want to get into translating Ubuntu, I think the barrier for contribution should be kept low. So the way in which they can get into the project should not be difficult. So we should have some kind of responsiveness there. So a team or a person that's responsible for that. Right, there was some chat on IRC. Yeah, they were saying like small and isolated tasks are very important to attract new people to wanted to contribute. And they're comparing to the idea of 100 paper cuts. Someone is saying, Andre is saying that triaging bugs takes less time than developing new things, such as basically work on infrastructure or fixing packages. Yeah, so just let me pick up perhaps some other ones that I believe are important. The administration of Ubuntu translation templates in Launchpad. By administration, I mean what we were talking about earlier, like setting the priorities of templates and also renaming them if necessary. Basically tweaking templates in Launchpad. I mean, Andre, if you can hear us, you got added to the Ubuntu Translations Coordinators team recently, and you said you'd be interested in perhaps setting the priorities. Would this something you'd be interested in, like managing the translation templates in Launchpad? Because I think that would be a nice and easy task to start with. So perhaps you might have some interest in that.
I think there's a delay.
Yeah, so that, I mean, we were checking that out. Okay, that's really cool. Yeah, so we've got one. So let's see. Let me see if I can just take that one. So Andre, I'll just be adding it directly to the session notes, and I'll put your name next to it. Just trying to see how I'll just leave it like this, and at the end of the session I'll see how I can better formulate this as an action. Cool, thanks for that. Announcements related to translations, like for example, when translations are open for people to do their work. Basically, when we open a new release in Launchpad, translations are disabled for a while because still quite a lot. Exactly. Right now, you cannot translate Ubuntu in Launchpad. So at some point, we decide to make them visible and basically to expose them. So something that generally needs to be announced on the Ubuntu Planet and Ubuntu translators mailing list. So basically we want to make lots of noise so that people can see that and just can come and do their translations. So that would be an example. Other examples are, for example, I don't know if there's any new feature in Launchpad that needs to be widely announced, or if there's or if the translation deadline is approaching, just to give a heads up to translators that they know that they've only got until that particular day to do their work. So that's the kind of things I'm thinking of. And again, you don't need any particular technical knowledge about this. I mean, anyone with access to the Ubuntu Planet, any Ubuntu member can do this. So yeah, I think that's another interesting one as well. So we've got less and less time, so I'll just go quickly through it, and then we'll see if we can get a strategy for this, and if we can get some people already who are interested in taking any of the tasks. So the other one is bug triaging. We've been talking about this. We know more or less what it is. It's basically taking an active role in triaging bugs against translation. So we want to make sure that there's a person assigned to this, because this is another important one. I don't know, Gabor, would you be interested in giving this type of work, which you're already awesome at? So
Sure.
yeah.
All right, yeah.
Okay. Is Kalamin Gabor your IP in Launchpad as well? What else? Language packs. This is about coordinating the release of language packs. We have several language packs updates throughout the cycle, and we basically need to coordinate this with the stable release update team, and to announce it on the translations list, to test these language packs, and basically to provide feedback to the SRU team back, so that these updates can be uploaded. Right now, we've had a community member that's been working on this. I mean, he basically developed a schedule for this for several releases, and he really pushed forward for this spec, and hopefully he's still hearing us. That's Kenneth Nielsen on IRC TLE. Kenneth, if you can hear us, I mean, would you be interested in continuing driving this forward, the language pack updates on stable releases? Just wait if there's a bit of delay, or if he's still online. So, well, in the meantime, is there any other things you can think of that might not be listed here that you think community members could help on translations, or do you have any idea on approaches on how we could do this? Yeah, basically.
Which one?
Any? I mean, is there any in particular that might not be listed here, or is there any area which we haven't discussed that you think that we would need to address as well, or that people, translation community, sorry, I was just reading that.
I think this mostly what we do.
Right.
Everything can be pushed into one or the other category.
Sorry, did you get?
Everything can be sorted into one or to the other
Right.
category.
All right. Okay. Okay. So Kenneth is saying that yeah, he'd be happy to continue driving forward the language pack updates, but he's really pressed for time until end of August because he's doing his PhD. So I mean, one thing we could do, for example, if you're comfortable with this, I can just put your name next to it, as we've done with the other ones. And if you don't have time until August, then we can see when you want to. You can decide yourself when you want or when you can get involved. So the way we handle these work items is basically we can also move them around in milestones. So we could just have a follow up, I don't know, whenever you've got time after Alpha 1, Alpha 2, or whatever. So yeah, if you're happy with this, given this caveat, then I would just add your name to that. What do you think? Let me just move it. Oh, someone else moved it. Cool. That's awesome. Thanks a lot. TLE. So apart from that, let me see if we've got only 5 minutes left, I think. If I'm not mistaken, let me just review the remaining task we've listed there. Opening translations, that's basically going to Launchpad and marking translations are as open.
But that's that has to be done once in a half year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would anyone? Obviously that's something I can do. It takes me like 30 seconds, but it would be good if I could. So I'd be happy to keep doing it, but also I think it would be good to have someone from the community to do it, at least to see how this is done and to take ownership of this for this cycle and see if they can do it for the next one. I don't know. Is there anyone interested in doing that? Yeah.
Sign me.
Cool.
Setting translation focus is basically the same thing.
Okay.
All right.
In terms of once in a cycle.
Yeah. So.
The thing is, at the moment, I'm pretty much, as low on the community tree as you can be in terms of, where you are in translation. So I'm not sure, I'm pretty much not qualified for this, but if there's anything, just say so.
All right. Okay. Then I'll just put you as. What's your Launchpad ID?
GW.
Sorry.
GW.
All right.
IJDE.
IJDE.
No, J, not G.
Sorry about that.
It's difficult. Dot. MAE. GH. ERMAN. Yep.
Okay. Cool. So. Would like to get help out, but not yet sure on which task.
Yeah.
Okay, I think with this we've got at least. I think we've got a good list of things people can already help on. So that's. I think that's a really good start. I think one thing I'll do is just try to expand this more a bit, like writing proper actions for each one of these, and then update the blueprint for that. If you are you subscribed to the Ubuntu translators mailing list?
I don't think so.
All right. So if you'd like to subscribe to the Ubuntu translators mailing list, I'll send a follow up to this blueprint, and if there's anything else, then people can just add their feedback on there. So there's someone else Rocket would like to help, but not sure where yet. So, I mean, what I'll do is I'll just put your name on the notes, and I'll do a follow-up. I'll put an an action item for me to find tasks for volunteers, and I'll follow up with you guys. So I'll put another task for me.
I think the TLE Kenneth has got an interesting idea there to redistribute these tasks every 6 months.
Oh.
And every UDS.
Oh,
So it
that's-
seems like a good idea.
Actually, that's a really cool one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me just put it in the notes. I mean, I guess we should document this as well. So let me just put it as an idea first. And I'll put an action on me to document. Oops. And to follow up. Let's review it. On the Ubuntu translators. Mailing list. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. Is there anything else? Anything else from IRC? From IRC, you guys, is there any other particular tasks you'd be interested in working on? Anything that you like or you'd like to get more experience on?
I think we should have someone to initiate and coordinate the stable release updates. Those are important.
Right. I mean, that's the one. Oh, you mean in general? You mean in general, not like language packs? Okay.
Not language packs, but fixes.
Right. Let me just add it here. Then.
We have that one. I'm just saying that this is very important.
Obviously, this will need someone with technical knowledge. Yeah. Okay.
It's
Or
the same task you just added that's the one before. I will
nice
just
one.
add
Sorry about
this.
that. Sorry about that. Oh no, sorry. That was for language packs. Sorry. So, okay, let me just put this in a readable way. So, so I think that's a really good start. I mean, we've got people willing to help on this, and I think that's the most important part. For the rest, we'll follow on the mailing list, and we can take it from there. So yeah, thank you everyone for your participation. I think it was a productive one, and thank you everyone at IRC as well for listening, for your suggestions.